Okay, so this is just a little video with a few tips about installing the Android head unit into a Renault Megane Mark III. A lot of this will apply to any unit, but there's just a few things. The general instructions are pretty thin on the ground, so there's a few things I discovered along the way that might make it a bit easier for someone else doing an install, hopefully. So this is the unit I had. Got the smaller monitor. I've got RS monitor as well, which I wanted to keep, and I'll talk about how you do that later. And my radio has the knob on the left. There's another one that has a knob in the middle, and you'll need to obviously send a picture of that to the seller when you buy the unit to make sure they give you the right cable, because they'll give you a cable specific to your model. This is roughly the cable you'll get. This is specific to a Megane 3. It might be a bit different with other cars, but they're all basically the same. This is almost identical to the cable that came with my unit, except I didn't have this F plug. I'm not sure what that's for, but obviously I can't get to my cable to show you things because I've installed it. Starting at the beginning, A and B, these plugs are for power and speakers, and what happens is the plugs that are in the back of your original radio go into these. Now, depending on what radio you have, they'll either it'll be one big black plug that'll plug into this, or it'll be two white plugs that will plug into this white one. But you don't use both of them. It's an either or situation, and that really just depends on the plugs in the back of your radio. These are just wired in parallel, so they're both basically the same plug going to the same wires. And just behind here, you can see this black plug. That is what goes into the head unit at the back, into the black socket. Over here, we'll skip this one here. These auxiliary ones are they're there in case you have a CD player, or you could potentially connect those to a socket. So you can plug an auxiliary in, put a 3.5mm socket in, but I just cut them off because I don't really need them. Now over here, we have these, one's a socket and one's a plug. And these connect to the cable that originally went in the back of your small screen that was at the top of the dash. That plugs into that. And then this end plugs into your small screen, and you just put that somewhere out of sight. Because what that does, if you don't have that screen connected, you either get airbag warnings on your dash, or you might find the Android unit just doesn't turn on at all. So you plug that in. I've put mine down where the old radio used to be, but there is an option with this, which is, as I mentioned, I have RS monitor in my screen, and this setup they send you won't actually make the RS monitor work. All it has is a few cables that are there for the airbag and seatbelt lights to avoid you getting the warning. So if you have RS monitor and you want that to still work on your small screen, which it can do, you don't plug into this at all. Instead, you buy some 24-pin extender cables, and you plug one into the original cable that went into your screen, and then you feed that down into where the old radio went, plug that into your old screen, and it should work. So from these screens, that brings me to the CAN bus box. So this basically converts the signals, all the information from your car, into a language that the head unit can understand. And if odds are with a Megane, you'll get a High World box. Some of them only have one connector, but the High World box has two, and this is where I got caught out. This larger connector, they've both got a different number of pins, so they'll only fit in one end of the box. This larger one passes all the info on from the car, and this one handles all your steering wheel controls. I didn't know this one had to be plugged in. The catch being that this one is connected to the cable down here, which is where the old radio sat. And then this one is connected to the one that has to be right up the top where your old screen was. So you can do it if you feed this one up, plug it into your old screen connector, and then slowly pull it back down. You'll get enough slack in the cables to get these two connected. And then this little one coming off will have two wires to a little white connector. That's what plugs into the actual head unit to connect the CAN bus signals. Now, while I'm here, speaking about reverse camera, some of them will have at pin 3 on this black connector that goes into the head unit, there's either a red or a brown wire, doesn't really matter, but they're kind of the main two colours they get used. In some cars, what you do is you connect power to your reverse light, and that then feeds, you also connect it to the reverse trigger wire, and 12 volt gets fed into that, and that's what triggers the head unit to switch over to the input of the reverse camera. With the Megane, that's actually handled by the CAN bus. So if you go to pin 3 here and trace the wire back, it actually goes into this CAN bus connector. So you don't need to connect any sort of reverse trigger. It's all handled by the CAN bus in the Megane. It may be the same with other cars. The easiest way, as I say, to find out is you'll either have pin 3, there'll be a wire hanging loose and it'll have a label saying reverse, or it will go in this loom back to the CAN bus box. And if it does that, then you don't need to connect any triggers. So that kind of wraps up the cabling. Now we're going to move on to a few things with the CAN bus settings. So with your CAN bus, for the head unit to understand what your car's telling it, you need to set it to the right model. If you go into the car settings, right down the bottom usually is where it is. There's factory settings. Click on that. You'll have to enter a password. It's normally 1617. It could be anything, but try 1617. And if not, get in touch. Just shoot the seller a message and get the password. When that opens up, you'll see all this, and these are all the different manufacturers of the CAN bus boxes. As I said, with the Megane, you'll most likely have a High World box. So if you click on High World, all the models will come up in this second row. Scroll down, you'll find Renault, and there will be options for Megane 2, Mark 3, Mark 4. Pick Mark 3, and there's only one model, which is all. Select all, and go back, and that's now set your CAN bus up so it understands. It's all in the right language. And the other thing we'll talk about is hooking up the reverse camera, because there's a few shortcuts here that could make your life simpler. So in the, standard kind of setup that isn't triggered by CAN bus, you've got this yellow cable, which is the long one. That's your actual video signal from your camera. And that also has this reverse wire trigger. So if you didn't have CAN bus triggering your reverse camera, that's how you'd hook it up. You don't need to do that with a Megane. You may not need to do it with others. As I said, if that pin 3 wire goes into your CAN bus box, you don't need to bother with that. So in the Megane, you don't need to connect either of these little red wires hanging off. Just leave those. Now with the power, which is what the red one is, you've got a red and black wire, and the normal instruction is to connect this red wire to the positive of your reverse light and the black to your ground. But you don't need to do that, because this video signal cable also has a ground, which they share on this end of the camera. So all you need to do is connect this red wire to the positive of your reverse light, and then ground will travel through the video signal cable and we'll get to the car ground that way. So you've only got to connect one wire there. Save yourself a little bit of time. And so I think that about wraps up the things that I wish I'd known before I started, because it wouldn't have made it any better, but it would have just made it a little bit simpler. So I hope that helps someone doing an install. I mean, I think the units are really great. They're a big improvement over the stock radio. Just having things like maps, Play Store, being able to put your own apps in. Not to mention, like, this photo is the stock launcher it came with, but you can download a different launcher and customize it till you go blue in the face. The one I've added is Doo Launcher. It's free. There's a free version. There's also a paid version. Look it up. DU. Have a search. Maybe think about that. And yeah, good luck.